Oh. What's up? That is hot. I'm gonna move that off to the side. I'll have some of that a little bit later. Welcome. Oh, so hot it makes me cry. How's everybody doing? Let me adjust the volume here real quick. Turn that down. Jordan, what's up, buddy? How are you? Okay. Well, I've got some people who want to have me go over the MVPS layout, and I'm sure many of you are here for that, as well as maybe talking about some more specific things related to the mid-player guide. So I'm not going to waste anybody's time. Hey, welcome, Wiles. Is it Wiles? Wileys? I don't know. Somebody... There's lots of different ways of saying that. Welcome, welcome. So we're going to jump right into it. As the title suggests, we're going to talk about the MVPS layout. We're going to go over the WCPPL layout. We'll probably go over that one pretty quickly, to be honest. Just because it's one of those situations where the layout's already been played. I haven't played it. People will have more opinions about it than I. So I don't want to spend too much time diving super deep into it if... You know, it's kind of old news and people already know how to play it. And it would just be kind of embarrassing to just kind of like go hard in it. But then player guides are useful. Hey, that's awesome, man. I'm glad to hear it. So yeah, we're going to do MVPS. We're going to do WCPPL. All the while, we're going to talk about, you know, as things come up, we'll talk about like specific Paintball IQ things. And then we're going to talk a little bit more specifically about the mid-player guide video. So kind of how we envision things happening is... the videos that I post, there's a few ways to look at them, which I'll cover this very quickly, and then we'll get into it. So I played the WCP layout. It was fun. Awesome. Well, then you can definitely contribute to this conversation. We have a person in the Discord server who's playing in this on the layout in a couple weeks, and so he was wanting me to go over it. So anybody who's playing on the layout, please feel free to give me feedback and your input on it. But the idea of the channel and me now live streaming on YouTube, whereas before I was streaming on Twitch, is to have all of the you know, all of my videos and streams being in one ecosystem. And the idea is that when I post a video, many times it will be kind of it'll be a very wide thing, but it'll be very shallow. In some cases, I'll do a video that's like a super deep dive on a particular topic, but those are really hard to write. They're not really hard to write scripts for. They can be really hard, but otherwise, that's what the live streams are for. So every Thursday, if you guys want to go over, first of all, if you have topics you want me to cover or questions you have specifically, the best way to get that the best way to talk about that is either you can ask in the chat, or you can just join the Discord server and let me know. And I'm going to try to post up in the chat saying, hey, I'm streaming tomorrow. I mean, every Thursday I'll be streaming. And so you guys will have an opportunity to tell me what you would like to talk about. And then I can add that to the stream. And then we can spend time diving a bit deeper into things. So that's kind of how I intend things to go. So let's jump start into it. WCPPL just happened to be the exact same layout as the 5 Alive layout, which was released 2 weeks earlier. Interesting. So, okay. Let's jump into the MVPS layout and see how this looks. So usually what I like to do this, I don't want to just do this without, you know, explaining kind of my process of how I do things. So my hope is that by doing this, you guys can learn how to walk layouts like I do, if you're interested. My design by Thomas Taylor. Interesting. So my suspicion is that these will be the zones. Another way to look at zones is where am I likely to find each player, right? So for example, you'd likely find the Dorito 1 somewhere in this zone, right? Off the break, typically speaking. You're likely to find the Dorito 2 guy here. You're likely to find the number 3 somewhere in this zone. And in this case, because these bunkers are definitely going to be used to get up to the 50 for sure, but those aren't going to be like primary bunkers off the break. And so therefore, I'm not sure. There's 2 ways you can chop this. You can either have it be this super wide zone, because the number 2 on the snake side is definitely going to go here most of the time. Or to the corner. So yeah, maybe that's what we'll do, is we'll revise these lanes. So we're gonna draw it here. we're going to draw it. I'd actually probably draw it, yeah, like this. And then we're going to draw this. And then we're going to draw probably like that. There we go. So off the break, I mean, obviously things can go whichever direction at a tournament, but this is how I approach layouts. Okay. So you can take it for whatever it's worth, but I like to just see where I would expect a Dorito 1, a Dorito 2, a Snake 1, a Snake 2 to be, and obviously where the home would be floating. So this isn't to say that the home guy in this case can't go to this, you know, wedge right here, or can't go to this bunker, but that if you understand at least where their primary like default bunker is going to be, where their safest bunker is going to be, it helps you understand not only like default breakouts when you see them, like if you see a 2-1-2 stack, let's say you're on the Snake side, for example, and you're the number 2 on the Snake side looking heads up, and you see, you know, the number 2 on the Snake side in a gun ready position, and the number 1, like for example, you have the number 2 right here, and you have the number 1 right here, and the number 1's kind of in a deep run position off the break. It's very likely this guy is going to go Snake off break, right? And this guy is either going to float back line and go into this tower, or he's going to run and gun to here, right? If you swap those two people, if the number 2's here and the Snake's here, it's very possible the Snake guy is going to run to the corner, and this guy's going to take a safe bunker here, so on and so forth. Or it could mean that they're going to double up back center. But just that's the reason why I like to draw these zones. It's just so I can have some kind of visual cue. Okay, so that's the first thing I do with a layout. It's just kind of understand the zones. It's also helpful to know that, like in the case of the Doritos, for example, if we kill somebody off the break right here, and I visually, you know, understand where the zones are likely going to be on any given layout. This is, again, you'll refine this information as you practice the layout. But going into the first weekend where the layout's released and you don't have any practice on the field, this can help you get a leg up and spend less time, especially on blind layouts, spend less time just like testing things that really aren't ever going to work, and just get right into the meat and potatoes of it. So if we kill somebody the Dorito right here, then I know that very likely this zone is clear, and I just have to ensure that I hold that zone, right? Jordan, what's up? Juicy, what's up, buddy? So I just have to make sure that if we kill this guy out of the Doritos, I can assume that this guy's here even if I haven't seen him, and I just have to make sure to lock off this zone, and vice versa, right? If we kill somebody out of the Snake off the break, it's very likely that as long as they didn't immediately fill, or you know, we're able to contain him here, then I control this zone, you know. And that's how it's best to think about paintball in terms of zones and not just a bunch of bunkers clustered together, right? Because it's very likely not until about the midpoint of the game, or maybe even sometimes the late game, will you have both your Dorito players in these bunkers, right? Not always the case, but you're not usually going to have like the Dorito 1 guy go here right off the break and the Dorito 2 guy go right here right off the break, right? Okay, so now let's look at the lanes. The next thing I like to do is I like to walk the back line, and guns up, you know, for whatever that's worth. It's guns up is, like, in my opinion, notoriously inaccurate, or people just aren't very good at setting up the bunkers on game day the way that they have them laid out. But the first thing you can obviously see is there is a big zone right here to shoot. The closer to the break box, something to note is that the closer to the break box, or the closer your paint has to be to the break box, the less likely you are to shoot the front player, and the more likely that you're just going to you either have to. So for example, if in this zone right here, if I wanted to shoot the front player, I have to put my first ball super accurate on the very right or very left side of that pin, and I'm telling you, like, the first 1 to 2 balls has to be on if I want to kill the front player. If I want to kill the mid player, I can either keep shooting that zone and hopefully kill him. That's, you know, the highest % chance. So for example, I know this is getting, I don't need to do this, but I'll just be really quick. So if I were to draw these as ticks, I have a much higher percent chance to shoot the number 2 if I aim right here regardless, right? If I'm not maybe super accurate on the very first 2 shots when I'm shooting, then I'm just going to shoot in the center of this thing to try and shoot the number 2. And also paintballs aren't that accurate sometimes. So otherwise, the zone, regardless, I would say, is right here. There, you're going to want to shoot that every time. So then there's a bit of a run and gun towards the home that you can see just as you know, pepper this lane. That's probably not going to be as clustered as it is in Guns Up, I would imagine. I'd imagine at the actual event, these will feel a lot more spaced out, those pins to the cans. Crossfield shots, they definitely exist. If you stop right here and hold, you could probably shoot the number 1 if you're good at running and gunning. And so another thing to pay attention to is depending on depending on what zones and shots exist, you should be practicing those skills in preparation for the tournament. So it may not be that you do it before the first weekend, but at the very least, the second weekend of the I usually like to do drills and setting up like gauntlets on a particular layout on the second day of the first weekend. In my opinion, that seems to be the best. So because you're still pretty fresh in the layout and you get a bunch of reps, and that way going into the second weekend of the layout, you are totally prepared to just learn strategy instead of spending a lot of your time working on the mechanics of the field. So that crossfield shot is definitely there. There's also a blind shot, but this is now not stuff off the break, right? Generally speaking, you're not gonna be able to get here as the number 2 and shoot the number 1. He's already gone, right? Unless your number 1 maybe pulls up and does this job, but I'm not sure why you would do that, even if you're wanting to double up the home. But you're really safe actually, unless the home. Well, we can get into that in a second. All right, running and gunning to the corner. So you obviously still have that crossfield shot. Probably wouldn't be something I would go for, because you need to be... Usually if you're running and gunning to the corner, you want to shoot at the home or something on your side of the field. If you're shooting on the opposite side of the field, you're just inefficient. It's really hard to hit that shot, and you're probably going to slow down. Your speed to the corner is going to be slowed because of that. So you definitely have like pretty standard shots. Just lob anywhere over here and maybe hit the guy running. Otherwise, putting pressure back at the guy that's going to be shooting you running and gunning to the corner is going to be important. But the advantage is that if you react quickly and you play low, if you stand up like this, you still have to worry about the Aztec shooting you. But if you get maybe a little low or get here quickly, as quick as the front player would get to the snake 1, you can immediately pressure him here. And then you could probably, this guy behind him could probably float out, maybe. Again, I'm getting into strategy quicker than I want to. But you might be able to float out and pressure this guy quicker before this dude sets up and shoots a cross shot on you. So again, it's like a 1-2 punch. It would be like, for example, it would be this guy draws guns as the number 1, but this guy plans to stay here, and then this dude runs here, immediately floats out, shoots this, and then dives in and goes. So, I mean, I guess you could say that this is the number 1 and this is the 2, but depending on how obvious, like, unfortunately, depending on what division you play in, some people's body types might give away which positions they're playing. So if you want to really like mess with them, you should send your heavier guy running and gunning, for example, to the corner, or rather setting him up as if he's going to the snake is what I meant to say. So anyway, all right, let's look at the Doritos side really quick. So there is a dead zone here, and this is something that a lot of people will probably use at a certain level. Just kidding. So depending on depending on the gaps here and how wide they are between the pins and the cans at the actual event. So for example, if right here you can see this gap really well between these 2 cans, then this might be a zone people will float out in and shoot that cross shot, like take a knee and float, because they're really well protected to the people in front of them and pretty well protected from the people back home. But anytime there's dead zones in the center, you always, as either the 3 or the 2, just want to shoot a couple balls back at it. Even as the 1, sometimes when you're running and gunning, you just want to put a couple of balls back here and threaten that position enough that people are scared to do it every point. But if you're not really shooting paint at the home off the break, then people are going to start to look for those center plays, and vice versa, right? If nobody's shooting, if your home guy says, hey, I'm not getting any pressure, nobody's shooting at me off the break, then that's your cue to like, okay, well, what can we do with that? Maybe we send the home guy instead of staying here and trying to shoot this gap off the break, which is like an okay gap. It has very little visibility. So as soon as they cross the zone and you either do or don't kill them, your job is done here. And the same thing is here, right? As soon as they cross this zone, your job is done. There's nothing else you can do here. So I would think that maybe instead you would just right off the bat run up here right away and either stand here and shoot somebody who's running and gunning to the corner, or get low, get low and wrap and shoot this zone. Or you can just go right into this bunker and then hold this zone, depending on where they're at. You know, you can shoot this gap, or you can shoot here, depending on how quickly you get there. So that's something to consider. But again, continuing on, there's really no crossfield shots for the number 2. I mean, trying to shoot any crossfield shot over in those pins and cans would be suicide, not suicide. It'd be a waste of your gun. You might be able to, I mean, it would be hard, but if you practice this over the top shot at practice and you can figure out where you can consistently shoot right here, that's a shot worth taking, because you'll probably kill the number 2 as you do it. Bounce shot alley. Yeah, that's true. There's going to be a lot of bounce shots in there to threaten the middle guy. And I'd be curious. We'll actually look at that. Thanks for reminding me. So there's heads up shots, you know, as is typical. Heads up shots. You could probably come here and take a knee and shoot any of these gaps right here, either in front of this Dorito or behind it in this gap. That looks to be a thing. I mean, you guys can see them. There are gaps here. It's just, there's a lot of stuff that's obstructed. I mean, yeah, I mean, if you're gonna run and gun to the baby Dorito, which I wouldn't do, then you're probably gonna shoot at this. But I just think you lose that. That's such a hard shot, because this guy is well established. The number 2, if he just runs a straight line right here and pumps this zone the whole time, he is so well established on you before you even round this Dorito right here that I would suspect you would just die. So there's not a lot of shots. I mean, I would imagine the number 2 shoots back at the home. Maybe the snake 2 cross shot, or the number 2 on the snake side cross shot. But otherwise, you're just like, it looks like there's so many blinds to just move. So we'll look at a heads up view here in just a second. But now what I like to do is I just like to see things that are kind of unique to the field. So Christian pointed out that there's probably a ton of bounce shots here, which I would absolutely agree. So in a heads up scenario, looking inside of the field, you could probably most definitely shoot right here, and it would bounce back in at you. So the way it would look like is like this. So that's definitely there. Same is true on the other side. So I don't know how wide this gap will be at the actual event. That's something to always look at, or how wide or how easy it would be to hold this gap, because that might not exist at all. But if it ends up being that people come to this can for whatever reason to hold that zone, I don't know why they would, then knowing that this shot exists is definitely helpful. Here, I would suspect that if you heard somebody in this brick, if you heard somebody in this brick, that you could probably shoot. You could probably fill as, for example, the home guy. You could use these as blinds and run up to here and then start shooting right here. And you could probably get a fair amount of bounce shots at that guy. You could try this can, but I think the can would be too far behind them. I think the cans would just go here. But it's always possible, you know. You just want to try things, because we're guessing what's going to work, but it's better to just go to the field and try it. But I would suspect that that's a pretty okay shot. It's not going to work if they're on this side of the field, but if they're on this side of the field for whatever reason, that's definitely something to look at. So this field is chaotic, neutral, rolling natural 1. I'm not sure I understand the rolling natural 1, but it looks to be a very straightforward field with like a middle that you could get lost in. It looks like a field that you win heads up and then dominate, then just kill everybody cross once you've dominated heads up. And it looks like the home guy has a lot of freedom and creativity to push whichever side of the field, you know, they see fit, or whatever side of the field you guys are strongest at. Something to pay attention to when you are trying to walk a field and maybe you're trying to like use, so like say for example you play at a field where you have like a pro team or even a semi-pro team or something, or D2, and let's say you're D5, D4 or whatever. Something to be aware of is that it's always good to aspire to play like those players are playing, obviously, but just be wary about making game plans around what they're doing, because the higher up the divisional ranks you go, the more predictable things can be. Holiday, what's up, buddy? Looks rough. If you lose sight of the snake player early, you can probably just skip right now. Yeah, well, it seems to be true for, that's why I'm trying to figure out if there's a reaction to that. So what I was saying earlier, I'm not sure how long you were here for. It looks like the home doesn't have very many shots off the break. Again, I don't know what these gaps are going to look like on the actual layout, but like the home has that gap, they have this gap, but those aren't great gaps. And so my thought would be to just send, oh, my nose itches, send the home guy to this tower right away, and then maybe you concede all the way up to the snake too, and then you just pump this gap, or you just bait the gap. I don't know, again, depending on how wide this is, it might be too hard to react, or you take the challenge heads up, but that's probably going to be predictable. That's probably going to get pretty well established, but it doesn't seem to be that there's a lot of shots to kill the snake guy getting into the snake one. And I agree that he's probably just going to come here and then immediately go here. That Aztec has got a cross shot, but then you're playing. So is this a cross field? Are the twos crossing? Because maybe that's what you do, is off the break. The cross shots for this Aztec for the number 2 on the Dorito side is pretty bad, to be honest. I mean, you've got shots over the center brick, kind of. You got shots in this weird gap right here. If somebody were to take the, I don't even know who you'd be shooting if you were to do that. You could probably shoot a guy who would just be going straight up the middle, running and gunning. You might kill that guy if you pump this zone. But otherwise, if this guy holds cross and shoots this snake gap, that would be very hard at pro, because people are going to be super fast. And then this guy comes here and shoots this cross. Maybe that's what you do, because the heads up on the Doritos is really bad. Like, look at this. Inside, outside. Up here, it gets a little better. But if you lose your wide guy, then you're kind of in a bad spot. So what do we say? It was this gap. So then maybe what you do is you hold these zones for a second, and then maybe you do keep your home guy here and you decide to like bingo. I don't know. Seattle Thunder calls it bingoing. I don't know what everybody else calls it, but maybe you bingo. I'm not sure you're going to catch me fast enough if I skip right past the gap. Ball takes time to get there. Yeah, no, absolutely. But maybe the idea is that you know, again, I don't even know if you could get here quick enough before the snake one gets here, but if he's trying to take the bite quick, this might be your only option to stop him from doing that. And so then you can hold him here for a second. But if you do this and you get your paint there quick enough, if that's even possible, then what you can do is, if this guy gets past this, if he gets here, then you can have some kind of call or word. The problem is, if you don't do this in the first like 5 to 10 seconds of the point, it becomes very difficult. But you might be able to have some kind of reactionary play where this guy then moves here and takes over this job, and then this dude gets to play heads up. So then you've got something like this, where this guy then switches whatever. You've got some dudes somewhere here and some dudes somewhere here. So it's cross, then heads up, where the center guy reacts. But if you do, I feel like if that were to just be kind of your default, that's super scoutable, you know. But we're not also talking about the pro division. That's a legit cross from the snake tower. Looks like stack bodies, be comfortable trading bodies consistently, and be that team with an extra guy on the snake side. Yeah, because it does look like if you just filter this way, there's a lot of kill shots there, but we will go over that in just a second. So I just wanted to see, I kind of like to see the middle first, because then the middle informs me what people can see, but then obviously being the front player in every position is really insightful. So this is a bad angle, but it definitely is there. This is a hard angle to challenge from, but fortunately the snake guy is in a not subordinate position, submissive position. taking that. Okay, let's look at heads up on the corner and then wrap. So again, this shot does exist, but I would think that you just got to be careful about the blind shot coming from this tower, because that guy could definitely clip your hopper. And I don't know, again, the visibility is going to change. This might be a lot more visible on the actual layout than it is here. Wrapping further, you do have to worry about a center guy who will kill you. So that's a hard wrap. That's a really harsh wrap too, which what I'm trying to see is, like, oftentimes in layouts, if you're trying to get your front player, let's say you're completely matched, for example, if you're completely matched in this scenario, except for your corner guy, let's say you have wider positioning than they do, we're over here. Oftentimes the easiest thing to do is to dominate the number one in front of you and then wrap and put a pressure on this dude just even for like 2 seconds, 1 second for this guy to then go. But all you're really doing is shooting a blind shot, and you have to be very careful. You have to check this guy off before you can do that. And the problem is this is such a wide wrap that it becomes really dangerous. Because I usually don't try. That's such a wide wrap. I don't know how else to articulate it, but like the degrees here, to wrap that is super unsafe, because this guy's random balls that he shoots and just like trying to keep you honest become a lot more dangerous. So the only other thing you could do is maybe just have your snake guy win the heads up, but then play inside for a second and control this dude, and then he can go. Because the tower guy is not gonna kill him. Tower guy's not gonna shoot him. Snake one guy, as long as he wins this and he goes, you know, when you guys have control and coordinating together. But let's keep going. Pretty standard, just heads up. Unfortunately, I wonder if that'll even be a true, it's not set up as a true tape or a true heads up, which makes this even harder. So because all you can do is shoot each other's gaps, which, you know, you have the added benefit of the element of surprise. So you might bring out like 7 pods as a snake one guy or something and just pump this zone, but I just don't feel like that's what's gonna I think people on the cross are gonna be able to hold this much better than the guy in the snake, because that's not usually what you want to do as a snake one. So then wrapping, you obviously have the center guy. Who else shoots this gap besides the Aztec? The Aztec snake one. You're probably safe from that wedge. I think you're probably safe from... Oop, you're probably safe from this wedge. Probably. Any can play, you know, anybody who goes up to the cans off the break is something to be aware of, but I just don't feel like people are going to do that, except to leapfrog and to get here. I think that's going to be probably a pretty common thing. All right. Obviously inside shot on the wedge, but this isn't like a kill position. That's just a threat if you wanted to, so I don't really feel like you would care to. These are the ones that I hate the most, because these are layouts. These are like, depending on how tight your field sets up your layout and what it ends up being at the event, this shot may or may not exist. Like, you may or may not be threatened from this position, even when you're crawling low. So as of right now, you could probably crawl really low, tight and low, and be fine. But those things change all the time. Obviously, you have the center guy who's a much bigger threat now. So what I'm trying to take note of is, who is it that's stopping this snake guy from progressing? And so far it's that center and the Aztec cross. So it's this Aztec here, and it's the center right here. Obviously, this guy can do the same job, but I think the more practical things for people to do is probably those. I would imagine that people going up here off the break is more of a game plan specific thing, and not like everybody's trying to do that off the break. Because there was that layout last year. I don't know if it was Philadelphia or what. Not last year. I think it was the year before. So it would have had to have been Vegas, I think. I think it was Vegas of 2020. There was a field that there was a lot of like, there was 2 center bricks on the snake side of the field like this, pretty much, and then there was like a center gap you had to cross or something like that. And so it was like every number 3 or number 2 was like trying to cross this gap really quickly and then hold from here. And the only reason I'm saying that is because that was an example of those bunkers being pretty far up the field and people were taking them off the break. So who knows, but that's definitely a move. That move is totally there. These are just obstructing so much view, but that's why I think this cross shot's probably your best bet at killing that guy. But it's a really hard adjustment because that's a difference between shooting low here and not shooting the snake guy, or vice versa. Shooting high enough. Well, you get what I mean. Okay, let's go back. So no kill shots here. Going up, there's a gap you can hold pretty strong if you wanted. I don't know why you would, but that's there. There's a lot of bunkers here. Could go to the cannon, then decide to audible to the center brick or snake brick. That's why it'll be very interesting to see if that's what people end up doing. Is if they go here, maybe take an inside route, or just go straight or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of options. You could go here like this. You could go here and inside. But it'll be very interesting to see if people end up playing this. And partly the reason why I wonder is because on the guns up layout, this shot is really bad. I mean, it's really bad in that I don't know if you can rely on this. This gap is totally there, and it's definitely there. But if they cross that zone, you're kind of in a crappy spot. You still have the option to get up to here right after as a response. But that's where I think the counterplay to that is just sending your middle guy up the center right away. And I think that people will probably do that a lot. It also might be a situation in which the number 2 on the Dorito side plays the home and shoots whichever direction they want, and they send their number 3, I mean whatever, they send a guy up the center to make this play, and then the Dorito dude just is an island, slow playing whatever, trying to stay alive. And then depending on if they lose this guy and he fills out, or they end up pushing up to the 50, he fills out to support, or this guy's just an island by himself over here, and then you do a 3-man push this side where you've got like a snake going here, you've got your home guy who's holding the zone, and then you've got your number 2. I'm drawing so many numbers. You got a number 2 guy here that fills here and goes here or something. Obviously, not saying that's the game plan. There's a lot of things that are susceptible to counter punches like this. Shooting this guy, shooting both of those people in the back. But I'm trying not to ramble too much about very specific things. Okay, this is a kill shot for sure on that Aztec. If you get here, this guy's dead. I don't know if people would even bother stopping here to shoot that instead of just coming here and doing it, but you are safer. So shooting this shot is definitely there. You could kill a wedge if there was somebody here playing snake side, but he'd probably know you're here, so you got to be careful about that. And then, yeah, boom. You just an entire lane of kill potential. So that's maybe that would be a discouraging factor between, putting a guy here and a guy here. Obviously, a guy here is not going to die to a dude doing this. Probably he's probably going to trade, but vice versa, if you've got a dude here and a dude here, and this guy happens to be looking here and this guy's rapping, this snake is killing everybody. So let's go back. This is definitely a kill shot for sure. So that's it. Then you wrap and kill everybody. So that's up to the 50. This guy is holding a zone. Wrapping, that's a headshot, or that's a heads up gun battle if you wanted it to be. Otherwise, this guy seems to be holding a zone or like running through to kill somebody out of the center. You could also, this is pretty strong too. If you come here and you hold this angle, if you hold this entire angle, you prevent anybody from counter punching the center unless they come snake side through the cans, which is good. Ramen. Yeah, I've got ramen right here, but I'm not eating it because, it's weird. Let's see. Did you say that already? If you can go up to the can shooting Dorito side while getting there. Oh, yeah. So instead of pulling up at this Aztec and shooting that, you can, there's lots of routes here too. You could either go, you could risk and come in the front of the Aztec, which you obviously run a huge risk of dying to somebody shooting your way in that gap. Otherwise, you make it out, beat him, and then you just take this route right here, still shooting Dorito way. Or you come out and go on the outside using the pins in front of you and shooting Dorito way. You kind of lose that as soon as you get, to here. But I bet you people will float out right here. This looks like a Fedorov zone, you know? This whole thing right here. It looks like a lot of room to shoot over at this direction. So depending on what's the safest route to get there, I would suspect a lot of people will try that. So this is a mess, to be honest. Well, we'll not that you know, Tampa Bay Damage would ever use any of my plays or breakouts, but when we finish the layout, which will be here in a second, I usually like to have at least like a default breakout and then pushes on either side. This is a very high Q field. High IQ. But the only issue, I think, will be visibility. There's not a lot of visibility heads up in some of these instances, which makes it very hard. So you get a lot of visibility looking cross field as the number 2s on either side, but it just is those layouts are really, really hard in my experience. All right, let's look at Doritos really quick. So that gap is totally there, as we talked about before. This gap is super strong. There's a gap here too. What is that? Snake 1? I don't know. I mean, I bet you that guy would surprise you with a few balls, and maybe you know, keep him honest by just pressuring him for a second. But that's something to, I guess, pay attention to. Heads up, there is nothing heads up. If you have to respond to like you losing your Dorito 1 guy and you need to hold this gap, that's there, but man, you're giving up so much of the center push if you do that. Going to the baby Dorito, same thing. That wedge heads up, get low. You can definitely make it into this Dorito 3. You have to worry about anybody cross. You have to worry about the snake. Snake 1, which I don't imagine they will stay on that job for very long if they were to do that. And that's such a distance that could be an easy just read and react response, you know. You might even be able to get low enough to just kind of eke out right here. Again, depending on where they're at, right? Like if there's a guy in this Aztec, he's blowing you up, but it might be something that you could even just like eke out, shoot some shots, and then dive. All right, inside, still the wedge. I don't know if anybody's going to go here. I mean, it's there, but I think it's like a responsive bunker. At this point, I think it's pretty traditional, you know, shoot the number 2 behind the guy in front of you, and then just be wary of this dude coming to run you down. There's a lot of layouts that are like that in the last couple of years, where it's like you can see each other's number 2s, but you can't see each other until one of you decides to run the other person down, like World Cup last year. That's a threat. You'll threaten a guy here, but you only kill people who are playing too loose off their bunkers if you get to this bunker. Obviously, you'll kill anybody who's not looking your way at this bunker, I would suspect. You could probably clip... I mean, it would still be hard, but you're pinching that guy out. You're not going to kill a wedge. I would ignore the Aztec at this point and just wrap. Getting up here, Snake 2 in the corner. So this is a threat. You should be scared of the Snake 2. The Snake 2 is in a lot safer position in this situation, but you have a kill shot on the corner. So it might be that this is another one of those where you eke out right here and you blind the Snake 2, shoot at the corner if you can kill him, and then essentially snap shoot from this position and shoot at the Snake 2 just to check him off, and then or you just get on the wrapping of this wedge as soon as you can, because if you can get here in this corner, you're safe. This is a crappy spot though to fight that Aztec. That is a real crappy spot. That angle is so bad. We try everyone's plays. Well, that's why you guys are a fan favorite. I love you guys. Tampa Bay Damage is awesome. Forgive me. This is my dinner. Okay. I mean, Snake 1, snake corner. It's just, I mean, once you get to the 50, it's just traditional paintball. Just shoot everybody in the back. So I was just trying to see what shots you could see right away. You're probably not safe. I mean, unless you step out and use this Dorito in front of you to blind, and there isn't a number one in the Dorito, or a number 1 Dorito player, and you got a guy behind you stopping, you're free to do this all day. You could probably wrap on this really hard and just kind of float out away from this harsh edge right here from the Aztec. Okay, so let's do a few breakouts, and then we'll go on to the WCPPL layout. So we are scheduled to do this for a couple hours, so we are 43 minutes in. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the stream. Thanks again for everybody. I don't actually know how many people are watching this. I'm just kind of talking. Let's find out. There's 9 of you. Welcome. Okay. So I think a default play. You could honestly either one. Well, we'll be a bit more specific. All right, so we're gonna go here. We're gonna go here, 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 and here. This is the default. That's a default. I mean, there's not a lot of value there, but this home guy can decide whichever side he wants to shoot, and that's your just super safe play. The audible of that play, I still think, is this guy shooting, but then this guy goes here and picks up this job. And then you still send your front guy here. It's one of those two. Why would you send someone to the corner? The snake corner, the cobra. I think that you probably have, except that those pins and those cans are really crappy. And if you're sending somebody to the can and you have a guy running and gunning to the corner, pro players are not going to have this problem, but you do run the risk of shooting your dude. You know, but I think the reason you would run and gun to the corner is to pressure somebody taking the middle off the break. I think that would be a potential reason, because your Dorito runner does not have as much of a shot, or rather, the shot is kind of there, but I just think you're a lot more vulnerable than running and gunning to the snake corner. So maybe if somebody's just taking the bite off the break up the center, you need to run a gun to the corner and shoot that. But I think the audible is to send your number 2. So your number 2 is either here or here off the break pretty consistently. Okay, so default for number 2 snake side, shooting this corner, audible up here, and then he has options, and then 2 on the snake side is, sorry, I'll read your comment in just a second. 2 on the snake side's here and here. I mean, it's 2 on the Dorito side. This as well. So if you want to be in their face holding, if you want to set up a trap, go to the wedge, shoot heads up. If you want to do essentially the same thing, but on the, if you want to do the same thing as the can on the snake side, but on the Dorito, go to the Aztec. It might be that you actually see people doing both. Except that that's a really bad, I don't know what, I don't really quickly, what is there? Okay, so that gap does exist. That's a hard react. And if they cross by either of your zones, that's a huge risk. Now you're in terrible spots. So, because you're super close to each other and you don't have a lot of wide pressure. I think it's one or the other, probably. Snake 2, say it, win your side. True. Snake 2. So I think the audible is probably, if you're wanting to do a Dorito push, risk your guy out here. Send. Wow, you have a few options. I don't know about that actually. I think having too many middle players is probably too many people up the middle is probably not a great idea. I think what I would do is I would do this. I would send this guy here and then play these two. So this is your 1, this is your 2, this is your 3, and then you do a standard push on the snake side. Just slow play it. Or I mean, obviously read and react, right? That's if you want to decide. Like, I think that's if you, I don't know. If you just want to try and bingo the number 1 on, or excuse me, the number 2 on the Dorito side. Excuse me, the number 1 on the Dorito side, but I don't know if that's possible. The other one is opposite. So 3 here, same as usual. 2, 1, and then standard. A lot of options from either of these bunkers, which is probably read and react. And then I think your really aggressive plays are probably this. Not in the same play. This is one of those where, like, speculate. You can speculate all you want, but people are going to find out what's best the day of, and they're just going to do that. Because I would suspect that what you're going to see teams do is this, and just some kind of super vanilla standard, and they're going to then figure out, how do we stop this? I think that's what's going to happen. How do we stop this push that's pretty free going up here? I think one of the first things you'll find is that people who are running and gun, people will run and gun to the snake corner because it's pretty safe heads up, and you can put a lot of pressure on the guy running and gunning up to the center. If that works, great. If that doesn't work, you'll probably end up just having a bunch of traffic right here. I guess you can include the towers as well. But I think you'll just have a ton of traffic. I think you'll just see people finding different routes, filtering, responding to like what their opponents are doing and stuff like that. But because I could see it, I could see a situation in which teams send a guy up the center most of the time. This guy shoots cross up the Doritos like this, you know, applying pressure to the number 1, and then decides, all right, I'm going to go here, looking this direction, shooting at the guy up the center, something like that. Okay. Any questions, comments, concerns? Anything else anybody wants to add? We do have Professor Holiday in here from Tampa Bay Damage. So if anything you want to look at, anything you want to add to this, can guy shoots cross initially. So this guy, right? Hold on. This guy, can guy shoots cross initially, and he can get closer to shutting down the Doritos, getting to the center brick. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, then that would tell me this is a 5 to 10 second point or push then. So you go here off the break, shooting Dorito way, and then going here right off the break, right after that, and then locking the same zone from this angle, which is a really safe route. And you'd have to probably do that, but otherwise you run the risk of some guy in the snake shooting you. Not the snake 1, probably. I don't think the snake 1 can see that. That would be very hard, but he can. Snake 2 can stop it. Snake 3 can obviously stop it. So it'd have to be, if you're wanting to leapfrog like that, I think you'd have to do it in the first 5 to 10 seconds of the point. Keep from trading out as much in the middle. So yeah, but I mean, if your thought is to hold a guy here, I suppose. I just think that this bunker is really crappy to be in after the first 5 to 10 seconds. But Snake 2 will likely stop it a great deal, actually. Yeah, that gap is like super wide. I really do think that if you want to shoot Dorito cross going into the snake can, you need to plan to get out of there. Either going to the brick snake side and power pushing with 3 people here, or maybe you just, you know, you kind of play back. You have your number 3 here, your number 1 somewhere here, and then your number 2 is here. And then your 3 can either decide, okay, I'm going to go up the middle, or we lost our snake guy, I'm going to fill out, whatever. But I just think you're probably pretty redundant if you send a guy here and a guy here who then just tries to get right here. That seems kind of redundant, but I don't know. I don't know what because this to me feels bad. having two players right here seems bad unless you've blown out the snake side. Unless or you just want to trade out all the time. But anyway. Sweet. Okay. Let's talk about I said we'd talk about the layout, WCPPL layout. I'll be sure to send this link to whoever it was in Discord. I'm sorry, I can't remember who was wanting this MVPS layout breakdown. Are you going to that holiday since you're in Florida? I don't know if you coach any teams out there. No one of us know yet. I'll play it Sunday and see what's real. I'm out. Have a good one. Good content. Hey, buddy, thanks so much for hanging out. I really appreciate you tuning in. Let us know next Thursday. Let us know what you find. But have a good one. All right. Let's do WCPPL real quick. There we go. I play every Sunday on MVPS stuff. Hey, that's awesome. Okay, have a good one, buddy. Thanks again. By the way, something I forgot to mention. I submitted today for my membership stuff to be reviewed. So I've gotten so much supportive comments, so many supportive comments about my videos, and in times past people have asked how they can support. Before, I was telling them, I'll just subscribe to my Twitch channel, and some people still are subscribed there, which is great. I appreciate that. If you have a Twitch Prime sub and you're not using it, you should go subscribe to my Twitch channel. It's totally free for you and it helps me. But I do have memberships coming. They might even be approved. I have no idea. But the idea, I've got 2 tiers for the membership. One is $2. It's just a supporter thing. It's just like, hey, this is me showing my support. Comes with a bunch of emojis, member badge, stuff like that. If I ever go a member only chat, if things get just too crazy, then you guys are not excluded in being able to communicate. Most people just watch me like I'm some kind of zoo animal. Before I streamed on Twitch, I had a lot of people who would watch me, or sorry, before I streamed on YouTube, I had a lot of people who would watch me on Twitch. A lot of people as in like, I don't know, like 20 something, 25. But people just didn't say anything. Like I would check in with chat and be like, guys, is everybody, like, are you guys here? Are you guys watching? And then I'd get like 5 or 6, 7 people commenting then. But a lot of people just like watch me like I'm some kind of zoo animal. So anyway, that's funny. But that's the first tier, is a supporter tier. I think it's $2. And then I have finally, I'm closing the loop on this. Then I have an SVP, or super valuable player tier. So a lot of people don't know, but SVP are my initials. So my name is Steven Von Peterson. I am doxing myself right now, but my name is Steven Von Peterson, and I've always liked my name abbreviated because there's a lot that you could do with that. Man, your videos are straight masterclass. Jordan, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thanks for typing. Thanks for being here. I'm not sure if you just tuned in or if you've been here for a minute, but so I finally have a tier. It'll be $10, super valuable player. It comes with, I'll have like member only posts. I'll be asking you guys at times what you'd like the next video to be, stuff like that. And I'll probably share scripts with you guys and get your feedback on things, because I don't have a soundboard for that right now, and I would like to have kind of a trusted group of people that I could ask, like, hey, does this make sense? Do you guys think this, in your experience, is this true? So that's what that tier is for. It has all the other perks and benefits of the other tier, but obviously it's $10. It's a lot. It's a big jump, but I wanted to give at least one tier that people could just like, $2 very casually, like, hey, I really like your content. I want to support you. Feel, liking and commenting and subscribing is a huge support already. So nobody should feel like they need to do that. But I have been asked, like, how can I support you more? What are other things I can do? And so I finally have something. So anyway, I shouldn't probably even say this, but at some point this year, I'm wanting to do merchandise. So not in a traditional sense. Like, I don't want to just have like t-shirts. I actually want to do like dry fit tees that you can wear as practice jerseys. So I want to have SVP like paintball gear that you can use, that it's comfortable. Like one of my favorite shirts that I own is the G2 clinic shirt I have. And I both practice in it and I wear it all the time. And it's just like super high quality. So that's the kind of thing I'm looking for, is something like that. And I'll probably I think what I would like to do this year is like a dry fit tee, a practice jersey, and like a hat. If I could do those 3 this year, that would be so cool. So anyway, hopefully I don't sound like every other streamer, you know. Just got here. Yep. First live stream of yours I've watched, actually. Well, welcome, buddy. That would be sick. Yeah. If you guys have ever owned anything from Daizana, excuse me, their stuff is incredible. So I would like to reach out to them and see what that could look like. The problem is I just don't know about like inventory stuff, but that's all business related. Let's get into this. All right. So I know many of you, this is old news. You've already played this layout. If you have, feel free to share what your experience was. I will always preface every layout by saying that your mileage may vary, depending on how people in your division, like the tendencies of the people in your division, it will greatly affect how the field is actually played, and in which case it won't actually matter anything that I say. So for example, I don't typically break down fields with division 4 and 5 in mind. Not any disrespect to those divisions, but the majority of the games are won almost exclusively by mechanical skill and mistakes, and like punishing mistakes. So you can pretty much do the most cookie cutter breakouts that you want, maybe even throw a few spicy things here and there where you send a guy straight up the center, or you send a guy straight into the snake, or whatever. But generally speaking, you're going to just win and lose your games based on if you're just better than your opponents, right? Because there's such a skill gap in those two divisions. When you start getting up to D3 is when your ability to like adhere to a game plan and your ability to execute a game plan is a big factor. And I always say that, like, I've said this in previous videos, but like Division 2 is where people start to play correct paintball. And obviously the bottom half of Division 2 and the top half of Division 2, that's a big gap in terms of their ability to play correct paintball. But when you start getting into top Division 2, that's when you really start to just play paintball correctly for the first time. And again, not any disrespect to any other teams, Division 3 or lower or anything like that. It's just there's a lot of stuff that people can get away with that's not going to be punished because of the wide skill gaps that exist. So it's very possible that, like, as a Division 3 team, their execution is incredible. They're just killing it in terms of executing a game plan, and they're adhering to it. But that team's going to get out of Division 3 very quickly, is all I'm trying to say. So, all right. I want a jersey by them. Daizana's jerseys are amazing, dude. The cuffs thing on the side are so good. Joe, what's up, buddy? Late to the party. You are wanting the WCPPL layout, so you just came just in time. I'm about to go over it right now. How long has the YouTube stream been happening? Been looking on Twitch. Sorry, Nick. Yes, the stream has been going for an hour. We just talked about the MVPS layout. So when I'm done live streaming, this video will be on my channel, so you can go back and watch it there. So we're gonna cover the WCPPL layout really quick, and then we're gonna break down. We're gonna go into a little bit more detail about the mid-player guide I just released. Talk about any other Paintball IQ stuff you guys have questions about. But we have another hour's worth of streaming, so you are not too late. So Jordan Cotter pushes from all three zones. Works, can't leave anything alone. Snake and Dorito both can lock/zone each other. Okay, cool. Well, there we go. There's the first piece of information. So WCPPL loves gaps up the center, and this layout looks to be no exception. So I'm going to try to do a lot of this pretty quickly because, again, this is kind of old news. So huge gaps up the field shots as you're running out. Lots of cross field shots. Just pay attention to that. As I said previously, whatever shots you see exist on the run, you should practice those. Practice those on if you can, on the second day of the first weekend. So Saturday, let's say you play, you're just playing points, you're just trying to get familiar with the field. Make the Sunday, if you play 2 days a weekend before an event, make the second day as much as you can about drills. Set up gauntlet drills, set up targets where you're shooting on the run, stuff like that. What you really want is to set up scenarios that get that muscle memory, that you're starting to build that muscle memory, where as soon as I get to my bunker, I know where my first target is. That's especially applicable to the number ones and stuff. So super straightforward heads up, right? You can pressure a guy running wide. You can keep a containment on the front player. You can keep a containment on the can behind him. You can't see the snake, so there's that. You have a lot of threats as you try to advance that are crossfield. So many crossfield shots. Super heads up. This is actually interesting because you can get low. You can get low to blind out the dude in front of you, and then you have to pressure the can to make it. So what I like to do is I like to view the field as just a two-man operation first. Just two-man operation on one side, two-man operation on the other side. And then from there, I like to see how can those people affect each other. And then from there, I throw in the third player, or the fifth player, excuse me, where I throw in the home guy. And then how can the home guy really screw things up? But the best way, in my opinion, or the fastest way to break down a field is just to see what the two-man operation is going to do on either side. So if we were to assume a very standard breakout, it would that would look like, sending a guy right here and a guy right here, and this dude gets really low, shoots this dude in, and then goes. That's a pretty standard, I want to get to my bunkers safely sort of play. Okay, all the while this dude doing what he can in the opposite way of not flinching as a result of that. So if we then instead go to the corner, then you can hold the tape. That's a true tape. You can stand up, threaten over the top. Tons of stuff to do here. And one of the things that we'll talk about, I already mentioned it in my last stream, but I'll cover it again very briefly, is the idea of always choose the third option or always choose the third angle. I don't know what, I need to come up with a word for it or a term for it. But this is a situation in which choosing the third angle is probably going to be super strong. So anyway, there's that. Pretty standard. You probably could easily run and gun to this and then just dive, slide out, and then come here. Probably pretty safe. You could go straight dive into it, whatever you want. Let's see. You can't play off that god at all, basically. Doritos can shoot the pack if you play off of it at all, but you can obviously zone that way too in the opposite way, or you can focus on jumping to snake one. Oh, so like, yeah, you can't just be sitting back here, because yeah, you'll definitely die to those Doritos. You've got two Doritos who can specifically shoot you, and you've got an Aztec that could, the tall tower that could also pressure you. So you're pretty uncomfortable in this position. But I suspect that this was a bunker that people took a lot off the break. So running up to the center, you obviously have, I assume this gap will exist at your tournament. You have that gap there. You have a more up the gut gap. In my mid player guide video, when I say like apply pressure, all I really mean is that like for the longest time, even up until when we were playing Division 2 in WCPPL, all I would do as the number 2 on the snake side was I would just shoot the front guy. I'd just shoot him like crazy, and I would feel the pressure coming at me from my guy heads up, and I just wouldn't do anything. And sometimes they get clipped, sometimes I wouldn't. And I was like, oh, I need to do more to stop that guy from just shooting at me freely. And so what I mean is like, if you want to really control your opponents, especially as the number 2 and as the number 3, but in this case as the 2, you need to check off the guy in front of you and keep him honest. And if you can control both of them, take it. And a lot of times people, especially in lower divisions, will give up will not even fight for control if they're feeling pressure. So if you, for example, if right away when you slide into this bunker, just, shoot some balls on the outside of this to make sure the guy doesn't immediately jump into the snake, and then almost right after get low and shoot heads up, that's a way that you can then, okay, I've got control. I'm going to sit here and I'm literally just going to shoot here and then here and then here and then here and then here, and you're just going back and forth, just dumping paint, and you're loading. You should be able to, out of your peripheral vision, or really in your vision that you're just staring at right here, you should be able to react really quickly to anything, especially from the god that tries to snap you, as long as you're playing pretty tight. And then you can flinch and then come back in, and then either come back out and challenge him lower, or at that point he's probably going to go, to be honest. But so that's what I mean, like when you apply pressure, just go back and forth. The other option is like, okay, if I know that that's what they do, then maybe instead of trying to stop the guy from going past the god or from leapfrogging right after, I just shoot my guy heads up first. So that's sometimes an option too, where especially if you know if you've got somebody shooting at the snake guy to hold him, as soon as you get to this bunker, all your job is to shoot the guy in front of you first, make him feel very uncomfortable, and then start shooting this dude, and then tell this, because I mean, as soon as you shoot this guy and get him to flinch, even in a heads up scenario, this guy's pretty safe to get out of there. That's enough of a flinch, like, oh, I'm getting pressure, I gotta pull back further and further. That's enough to allow their snake player to get up there. So let's see. Off the break, I was shooting the home / center brick, running and gunning to the snake corner, which I would then shoot the snake shot. Yeah, it looks like if you're gonna run to the corner, run and gun, you're putting shots back at the home, like totally. You could also, there's a big gap right here. But you know, at that point you're already in your bunker, right? Yeah, either straight snake or stop at god, usually for most one players on snake side. I killed corner from that can a few times off the break. Yeah, from here this is a pretty solid stop to shoot thing. Sorry, I'm just reading a text. Okay. Bounce off of that god into that can is wicked. Yeah, that's also, yeah, bounce shots are something I need to do better at, is looking at potential bounce shots when I look at layouts. It's not something I do. I usually just do it at the field, but I appreciate that. So this is something to also pay attention to when you're trying to just dominate what's in front of you, is that in some cases, if you can't control what's like directly in front of you, you can actually get low, pull your gun really far back and make yourself as small or as much of a sliver as you can, and then just shoot right here. Just pound this. I think that might even be a little lower than that, but just pound that shot and you can get your dude to flinch. Might even kill him sometimes. There's been a few layouts where that's actually a kill shot. I remember that last year at the G2 clinic. Inside routes are definitely there. If you want like a case study example, go look at World Cup last year. This route is super obvious there, where instead of shooting heads up right off the break, you go up here, either deciding to play on the outside or looking inside and getting up to here quickly. Obviously, that's an option. It's a huge gap. Such a big gap. You have to challenge that. You know, you have to wrap really wide to shoot that guy before you could even make this breakout, or you have to challenge him up the center, threaten his survivability. Let's look at the home or back line on the Dorito side really quick. Lots of some cross shots. Those cross shots are there for sure. Heads up is definitely there. Home is there. Huge gaps from like, yeah, look at this. Huge gaps. And even rotates around. Big up the center. If somebody's running up the center, you can pressure them running out to this Aztec, or the tall tower rather. This is honestly a pretty straightforward field. Pretty straightforward heads up if you're wanting to shoot the tower, get in, look cross, play heads up, stand up, shoot this dude, get in here, look cross. Gotta worry about the snake 2, if that's the snake 2 probably. Worry about the snake 2. You have a kill shot on the wedge, the tall wedge, kill shot on the can for sure. I would imagine people get here really quick. And then a pretty standard heads up, like gun battle. And then, so the only thing, like I could obviously, like this is pretty obvious to people, right? Like when you get to this bunker, you wrap and shoot any one of these 4 Doritos. But the way that this will translate for you in actual skill is if you set up targets at each of these and you just snap the crap, you just snap them. Snap a hopper's worth at each of these targets right here. If you have the luxury of doing that, because that's going to get you, you know, if for example, you have the call outs where, oh, excuse me. You have the call outs where it's like, okay, this is the, I'm just making up stuff, right? But let's say this is the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4, or the 100, 200, 300, 400, whatever. And so if you should run a drill where you say, where you've got a guy behind you that calls the bunker, all right, 400, and then you just immediately snap and shoot that guy, all the while making sure that you are not exposing yourself at all, and then just running that drill over and over and over again. The 200, the 300, 100, whatever, and you're just snapping it every time, so you just instantly know where the shot is. because that's the best way to that's the best way you can prepare for when you get to the 50. There's no other way to be to be ready for that situation without running that drill. The Dorito 50 was the most important part of the field. The first team to get there won the game. Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. This is a super strong, I mean, like, you just control a lot of the snake side zones from here. You kill the can, you could, you know, there's a lot of things you could do here where you either back up, hold this zone right here. You know, you've got a threat on the god, for example. You could go here. I mean, there's so much room for play, I guess, essentially. So let's then look really quickly at some breakouts. So I'd imagine that with anything, you're always going to have the possibility of making that off break. That's going to be very hard, especially depending on the division you're in. But I think it's going to be a pretty standard, like, well, the Dorito is kind of interesting. It looks to be something like this, probably. I don't think you're going to do this for sure, but it's probably something like this. It might even be something like this, or rather this, something like that. Obviously you have the option of doing the corner or the can, right? So something like this. All right, this is the easiest way to draw this. So I just drew a penis. One, two. Dang it. Well, we'll just incorporate that. I know this might not look very valuable, but I promise there's some value in this. 1 second. I should have included this. Okay, hold on. I'm inclined to say this. So that's probably how I would draw those zones. I know it's like impossible to probably see. Eric, what's up? Did you do the MVPS layout? Yes, I did. I did that in the first hour. As soon as this stream is done, it will be posted on my YouTube channel. You can go back and watch it there for sure. It'll be you and your brother's first tournament. That's awesome. Welcome. Welcome to the tournament paintball scene. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, Eric, that video will be posted as soon as the stream's done, which will be done in 45 minutes. So that's probably the zones that I would suspect you would see. Like, as the number one, you're just going to these bunkers, right? You're probably not going to do anything crazy in these back towers. As the two on the Dorito side, you could, so I'll break it down then just by individual zones. So your number one guy is, your game plans revolve around probably this bunker, and doing something like this. Anything else is just like a delay or to try and get to those bunkers. It's possible that you get here and then you're immediately trying to get to the baby, and that's, but I wouldn't really consider that like the play. I mean, I suppose you could just dive right there right away. So then maybe I'd just say that like these are the bunkers you're probably going to go to, or something like this off the break, right? As the number one on the Dorito side. As the number two, you can either go to the corner. You might have your one go here and you go here, vice versa, whatever. But then it's also possible for you to probably go here and maybe even do something like this. So I suppose you're probably concerned with these bunkers right here. Probably more like this. Those are probably the bunkers you're looking to play. Excuse me. I'll just do it this way. 2, 2, 2. Probably. Obviously, you could go here, but I would think off the break, those are your bunkers. The number 3's got a lot. The number 3 could go here, here, could go here, and here, or here. That's the number 3's hard. The number 3 could even go as far out as like here, probably, maybe. I don't know. I guess you could. I guess if they were to go like here, and you'd send your dude off the break here, and then they'd float. So then you have your number 2 here, your number 1 here, and your 3 here. And 3 is looking cross. That's an option. That's kind of like, there's a term. I don't know if people have come up with a term for this, but it's like setting up a castle. It's not castling, that's a chess term. But like, I almost want to say it's castling, where you're essentially hard favoring one side of the field, but your number 3 is looking cross from that angle, and it just sets up a turret, right? You just dump paint from there, and you're just letting your guys do what they do. And the advantage to doing that is that it makes the off the break run to this bunker a lot safer. Only because if you end up losing this guy, you've got a number 3 in this position ready to go, right? He's ready to, either one of these guys can become the number 1 at that point. And so you just essentially lose your middle and you still maintain positioning. Looks very similar to USXBL. I haven't looked at that layout, actually. A buddy of mine is starting up a team that I'm joining, and hopefully we will be ready to play next season. Awesome. Well, hopefully you can play something this season. That would be good. If you have a tall guy, that standing wing can be pretty cool. Oh, really? I imagine, yeah. There's a lot of shots that you can like rain down on people with. Define tall. 6'4". Holy. So, all right, continuing on. The number 3 we said is here, here, here. Maybe not so much of the can, but possibly. And then here and here. I would actually suspect the number 3 would probably do this. That's probably what they would do. And then anything else is against, again, like castling one side of the field, right? So the number 3 could go as far as here. They could go as far as here or as far as here. But if you go beyond this zone, it's probably because you're castling one side or the other. You're wanting to push the Dorito side, or you're wanting to push the snake side. Maybe that's the term. Maybe I'll just stick with castling. I kind of like that idea. I like that idea. Okay. Hey, if you guys refer to anything if you refer to that paintball strategy as castling, give me some credit, okay? All right. Number 2 on the snake side is going to be here, 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 here. That's probably what I would see them doing off break. Anything else is going to be, or you could do this, but that's going to be like, we want to play the pocket and shoot somebody off break, but then immediately fill out, right? You send a 2 here, shooting whatever, and then he fills out. But that's the reason why, like, as far as the Dorito side as they will end up being is probably here. Otherwise, they'll be here, 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 here. Your number 1 is going to be probably, if you double up, then you can send your 1 here, but that would be the farthest towards the Dorito side that I would expect the number 1 to go. Otherwise, they're going to be here, here, here. So yeah, I think we drew our zones right. Okay, standard breakout. I mean, to be honest, there are so many gaps on this field that what you want to do, what you're mostly concerned with when you walk a field like this, is making sure that everybody has a job that doesn't overlap with one another. So I could go through the exercise of like drawing every single zone that people can shoot or whatever. I don't know if that's very valuable, because a lot of what you can shoot changes when you're on the go on this layout, right? Like you have gaps that are visible to you while you're running that you don't have visible when you get to your bunker. And so all you really want to make sure is that, all right, do we want to bingo a player, which in our case, bingo, some of you were here for this, but some of you weren't. Bingo in Seattle Thunder's case, which we kind of adopted. I'm sure there's a lot of other teams that use this. Bingo is when you want to like bingo a guy. You want to pick one guy off, and so that usually means you have 2 guns shooting at that guy. So that could be that you have 1 gun. I'm just making this up. I'm not saying this actually exists, but maybe you have a guy at home shooting the snake corner runner, and then you have another dude who's running and gunning towards that guy as well, heads up, and that would be the only time that it would be acceptable to overlap. Now, I will say that you can deviate from this, where in the case that you know you're playing a team that has a very good snake player or a very good Dorito player, such that they're the best player on that team and it's very obvious, then it might be worth it to put 3 guns on that guy if it means that you'll win the point by doing it, right? Otherwise, you don't want to put more than 2 guns on one person. And what I mean by job is just making sure that like off the break or as soon as you guys get to your bunkers, you guys aren't doing the same thing. You're not like, okay, when I get to this Dorito and you get to the corner, like I'm going to shoot this dude. I'm going to shoot this gap. And then this guy's like, yeah, I'm going to shoot this gap too. It's like, no, you're literally giving so much space right here for somebody to do whatever they want because you guys aren't covering your jobs. You're not covering your zones. So that's all to say that when you run and when you decide to, you know, whether you decide to run and gun off the break or whatever you decide to do, try to have 1 gun on 1 job to start. And then as you start to see problems through practicing the field, if you start to see, okay, when they get to that Dorito 50, it kills us instantly. How can do we need to put 2 guns that way? Or what is it that we need to do to stop it? Do we need to send a guy out the center to kill them? Do we need to just match it as best as we can? Do we need to have some kind of reactive play, right? And that's where the mid player guide came in, where that comes into effect, is that a lot of times it might be that off the break, for example, this dude's just going here, shooting this gap. And then as soon as this dude survives and gets here, whatever that looks like, right? I'm just drawing stuff. But if that's the case, then this guy really fights to try and get up to the 50 and then shoot him right here. And that's like a reaction. It's not a I went there regardless of what happened in front of me. I went there in response to them getting into the 50. And sometimes that's the best thing you can do. Obviously, in this case, that's a huge gap. There's a lot of kill potential from the snake guy to kill you making that move. So the quicker in the play you can make that, the better, the safer, generally speaking. But nothing is impossible. We have a dude that could see all the Doritos from it, lol, and he plays out of the angle on top. Oh, really? So he's like here. He's like raining down on people, dude. He's like, so much paint coming from this simple angle. They're literally dominating this entire section. Let's see. The 3 could go to the snake wing and stand as tall as they can to look to shoot the snake guy as they came around the outside of the S2. Oh, really? Let's see. You said, wait, the 3 could go to the snake wing. Are you talking about this? No, you're not talking about this, are you? This is a wing, from my understanding. As tall as they can. Shoot the snake guy as they came around the outside of the S2. Like here. Oh, the wedge. This is a wedge. Talking about right here. Like this gap right here. Or are you talking about this thing? Because that's... Anyway, I'll read the other comments while you answer that. Me and my brother are also going to start a rec team here at our church in Winchester, Virginia. And depending on interest, we're going to try to get into the D5 EPL on our region. That's awesome. Man, that's awesome. It was extremely heavy D side field. Off break, we usually had 4 guns up and 3 shooting the D side. The only way the only way you get away with that is if the snake side is just that bad or they're not properly adjusting. Because if we knew a team was sending 4 guns our way, we'd pull up short D side and then we would just punch the snake side. So, I mean, again, 3 guns one way is one thing. 4 guns, you might be exaggerating. 4 guns one way, that's punishable. Almost no matter how bad the field is on one side or the other. We won points off of snake, but our D side won more often. So that's the thing. You guys also, like, I'd mentioned this before, but just bear in mind that your division that you play in greatly affects how the field is played. There is no better example than that than if you go to an NXL and you watch how the pros play versus, like, watch how the pros play a particular layout versus watching somebody playing D4 and D3. It is night and day different. It's surprising because you watch the pros and you're like, oh, that makes sense. Like, this is the heavy side of the field. This is the strong side of the field. And then you go and watch somebody play D4 and it's like, oh, they just won because, like, they had a really bad breakout or their game plan was not good or they had had 2 guys that were running with their guns down, or stuff like that, right? Like there's a lot of things that game plans are still very important, and you should make good game plans, but you will win more by just punishing people's mistakes than you will by having a better game plan than your opponents. But should your number 1 player always run and gun, or should they be diving into their bunkers as they move the field as possible? The rule of thumb is you should try to have 4 guns. The center stand-up wing, yeah, that first one, okay. That gap wasn't good on our layout in person, which sucked because we practiced it. Oh, really? I played D5 with SQD. The kids, SQD, the kids. Shout out my boys. We placed second on my first tourney. That's awesome. Congrats. That's awesome. Yeah, usually if you were smart, you could just punch a side that they didn't zone well on. That's the thing. Like if you just react to the pressure, if you just look at the paint that's coming your way and just take a bite every time the paint's not there, you can almost win every point. The only thing you have to be careful of is that at the high end of Division 3 is when you will start seeing people setting up traps at the center. So if you, for example, if you know what's in front of you, if as the number 1 or 2 you know where both the players are and you're not getting shot at, take a bite every time. Take a bite every time. Force them to stop you. Force them to put some guy in the center to stop you from taking the bite. And that usually doesn't happen until you're at like high Division 3. Again, I don't mean no disrespect, but usually you don't see people who then punch up the center right away and hold a gap and wait for somebody to push. And as soon as they do, then you just know I have to check that off. We either have to put pressure back at the home guy to keep him at his primary bunker and not let him get up the center off the break, or you just have to make sure you check. I mean, you should check it off regardless. Every time you should build the habit of checking off the center every time. Like when we were playing our squad, and this is true for every team, we would treat as though the center bunker was always filled. That even if it meant that we played as though there were 6 players, we always played as though the center was filled. So that means that we would shoot at the center, even if we knew somebody was there or wasn't, every single time we made a bump up the field, especially as the number 1. That's a really good practice or really good habit to get into. So that's all I mean to say is that, like, just be aware that your guys' experience and mileage, like I'm really curious to know what shots exist, just to acknowledge them. But to say that one side of the field or the other was like the one that won the points very consistently is really dependent on the competition and the skill of the teams that you're playing. Because traditionally speaking, teams rely very heavily on their front players to win. But in some cases, it might be, well, if you know that's the case, send a guy at the center, send your number 3 at the center every point, and just have him watch one side for the entire game, and then kill the dude that runs into your gun every time. So you fight a 5v4, and then wait for them to respond to it. So this isn't necessarily layout specific, but I've been trying to watch a lot of pro paintball, and I see the 2s looking inside crossfield often. Is that mostly zone control, watching gaps? Yes. So good observation. So in the video that I just posted, which this is kind of a natural transition into, I'll still have this layout pulled up for a second, but this is kind of a natural transition into talking about like the mid player deep dive. So I said this at the top of the hour, at the top of the stream, which is that mid player guide is a very wide but very shallow guide. It is meant to serve as a foundation for how you play the position. And the reason I want to make these videos is because I'm a firm believer that you need to have structure before you can make any sort of meaningful progress or improve in any meaningful way, right? Because otherwise it's just chaos. Otherwise you're not really understanding why certain things went your way or why certain things didn't. And so what I am trying, the channel, what my whole purpose of the channel is to provide structure to paintball. I am not the first person to come up with these things. I know there's a ton of people who message me who say, oh man, like I've always known that, I just never heard it articulated that way, or I've never heard somebody just put it out there. And it's sad because there's a lot of people who want to get into paintball. There's a lot of people who are new to paintball that takes years and years of experience of just observing. And it's not just like I'm just playing paintball so I know these things. It's I've been paying attention to how paintball is played, and I'm picking up on certain things that are very consistent when people play certain positions. And I think that's how you're supposed to play it. Well, because I've been playing paintball for like 16 years, I was tired of not having this type of content. So that's all to say that guide, and same with the front player guide, and same for the number 3 guide that I'll be releasing sometime, hopefully soon. Those are all to serve as very wide but very shallow guides. the live streams and other videos that I'll release will dive much deeper into the more specifics of those positions. And one of those, this is now we're getting back. One of those is I see the number 2s looking inside the field. Why do they do that? If I know that I'm supposed to shoot the front player and keep them from moving up the field, why do I see people do that? And that's a great question. Those are the types of questions you need to ask yourself when you have this foundation to work from. Now, there's a couple reasons why they're looking on the inside of the field a lot. And it has to do with your ability to gain intel on particular layouts. So some layouts are very bad at getting intel about what's happening in front of you. So one of those layouts, and in fact I'll have to leave for this, is 21 World Cup. I want to just make sure it was World Cup. Yes. So one of these layouts, I believe it was this one, and there's a lot of layouts that are like this. So I don't have a specific term for it, but there's a term that is like bad. You have just really bad heads up intel. And so what that means is that essentially the most information that you get off the break is cross field, when your number 2s are looking cross, and that's oftentimes where your best shots exist off the break, is by running and gunning, shooting cross. And the problem is that when your opponents cross that zone, you don't know if you killed them unless you visually see them walk off the field, or you see a ref go hit or whatever. But otherwise, your intel is only as good as either they haven't crossed this zone at all, or they crossed this zone, and so I know there's one person in this area, but I don't know where in this area they are. And the problem is that when you go to switch heads up, then after they've crossed your zones, and now you're playing a 2-man operation heads up where you're just kind of pushing both sides like normal, you have to then connect each other. Your number 2s have to connect with each other. And the best way to do that is to constantly go like this. The best way to do that is to head check and take a second and look at this up the center of the field, because there's a lot of, especially on layouts like that, a lot of the times the number 3s will make moves after the first 5 to 10 seconds of the point, or sometimes even as late as like 20 seconds, but they will make a secondary punch in that window. So we'll say 5 to 20 seconds is when they'll punch up the center. And so what happens is that if you're not careful, you will lose intel either here, you'll lose intel either here in this cross zone that you establish, where you don't see anything here and you don't see anything here, and you have a ton of vision right here. But then as soon as you switch, it's the opposite problem. And that was true for this layout, that now you have no intel you have no vision on what's going on right here, but you have all the vision of what's going on right here. Right? So that's why, as the number 2, and especially the 3, you need to keep your head on a swivel a lot as you go higher and higher up the divisional ranks, because a lot of times you'll just see people who are playing heads up like this, and then they'll even head check straight up the center of the field and then come back and pick up their job on what's going on in front of them. So there are also times in which it's actually better to swap those jobs with your number 3 in this case. I'm not saying that this is exactly what you would want to do, but let's say that they start advancing at a certain point up the field. Let's say you've held them really well on the snake side. So let's say you've held them to these bunkers here, but they're starting to break past your line of defense on the Dorito side. Well, if you're getting contained, if you're getting pressured really hard, so let's say you've got a guy here, you've got a guy here, you've got a guy here, and we'll just say you've got a guy here. So if this is your breakout, or this is the scenario, but they've taken more ground than you on the Dorito side, then it's sometimes better, instead of as the number 2 on the Dorito side in this case, to shoot at this guy who's constantly advancing. It's sometimes safer for you to swap with your number 3, so that you start to, okay, I can shoot this zone to stop these guys, and now I can tell my home guy to just shoot this dude, because now he's not useless. Because otherwise, if this dude's shooting heads up and this dude's shooting heads up, the home guy has no job on this layout. That's very particular to this layout, but this guy has no job, and he either needs to move up the center and risk his body, or he needs to swap jobs with somebody and make his life less useless. So that would be, in this case, this scenario. And then again, your 2-man operation on the snake side is just doing whatever they want to push. Whenever you get a kill, as soon as you get a kill, that's when you shift gears and you start making a push. But if it's a 5-on-5 situation, nobody's died, but they've gotten up to the Dorito 3 or 4, and you have less positioning than them in that scenario, that's a case where you'd want to switch jobs. So there's some times where in certain layouts you're seeing the number 2s switching jobs like crazy, but that's making sure that they're connected. What you don't want is to have this guy shoot cross, this guy shoot heads up, and this dude is completely alone, right? You want to make sure that either that's intentional for even just a second, like you say, like we had a call for this. I don't remember what the call is now actually, but we had a call for, hey, pinch this guy out and kill him. And so we could sit and do this job for like 10 seconds where we're just pounding this guy's bunker and trying to make him really uncomfortable, see if we can clip a pack. But usually if the number 3 sees that happening, he will realize I need to protect my number 1. I need to protect my number 1 over here. And that's a situation where that happens for just a second. Let's say the call is done. You've waited 5 to 10 seconds. This guy switches back to shoot heads up. You don't usually need to even say anything in this case, but then the number 3 is free to do whatever after that. Because now they're both playing heads up. The 3 can start to float up the center or whatever. Make sense? I know it's a lot of information, but used to trying to watch my 1's tape typically. Yeah, so traditional paintball has always been that you go here and the guy behind him fills out, and then you shoot here and then you wrap while this guy pushes up. And that's still very, very correct paintball. That's still how a lot of points are won. It's just that a lot of times there's a lot of creativity in the center of the field that you need to be comfortable with and you need to explore, because you'll find that a lot of games are actually won by not sending a guy in the corner and a guy right behind him. That in a straight 5-on-5 scenario, it's sometimes better, like in this case where you've got a guy here and a guy here and they're matching you, and a lot of times it was better for the number 2 on this layout to take this huge bite here and then pressure the crap out of this guy and just make him super uncomfortable, and this guy is completely useless because he can't shoot this dude and he's not going to threaten this guy as much as he would like from that position. So thanks a ton. And then do you suggest committing to shooting inside if, say, I can clearly see D2 trying to bump D3? Just tell my 1 to watch his tape for a minute, then I take over the cross. Yeah, so depending on how far in the backfield you are and where it is that you're trying to shoot, like what gap you're trying to shoot, my suggestion is always just shoot without waiting to see. Just shoot the gap. Like you're not going to bait anything. You're not going to be able to react to anything unless the gap is massive. But even still, if you're in one of these backline bunkers and you decide to look on the inside of the field, absolutely tell your front player, hey, watch your tape, protect yourself. And I'm going to do something for a second, whatever. But in the case where you just want to, like, we call it keeping people honest, right? It's just that you're putting as much pressure onto the field everywhere as often as possible to make any bump less free, less safe. You're trying to instill even a little amount of doubt into your opponents to think that they can just take any bite they want just because they're not getting shot at, because at any moment there could be a stream of paint coming their way that they weren't anticipating. So that's the idea of, like, if you want to shoot an inside gap, just shoot it instead of just waiting to see stuff. So makes sense for sure. Pretty much every layout I played last year didn't have corner to corner visibility. Yeah, that was weird. I noticed a lot of layouts last year didn't have that. Been trying to figure out my job, and your channel's super helpful. Thanks. Absolutely, Garrett. Thank you so much. I'm glad it's helpful. I've been very, very humbled by people saying how helpful it is. So can you review the Super 7s layout that's happening this weekend in Australia? Would love to hear your thoughts. I will do it. Oh, excuse me. I will do it super, super quick because we only have 20 minutes left in the stream, and I'm sure people are getting bored of me talking about layout stuff. But Super 7s, look at that. All right, we'll look at this one real quick. What? Oh, it's a 7-man, right? Super 7s is a 7-man. Correct? Can you make sure that I'm right? Also, if you are in Australia and you play in this event and you see Matty Kling, please tell him Steven Peterson from Utah Bro Army says hi and he loves him. He will know who you are. He will know who that is. Oh, it's a 5-man. Okay, I was gonna say the gaps are like 7, but the field is like 5. So okay, interesting. This is a really weird layout. No, it's just 5-man. Okay, I'm playing tomorrow. I don't think Kling is playing. Oh, really? Okay. Matty Kling is a bro, so the Bro Army, ex-Bro Army player. Well, I don't even know if he would consider himself ex-Bro Army player, but those Aussies love their gaps, though. It's all live streamed on YouTube on the page. Oh, cool. Okay. All right. So the first thing is whatever you want to shoot from the home is up to you. In the case where you can see each other, so like you can blind off your mirror in this position if you wanted to by shooting, you know, this gap and this gap by pulling back. But again, just always just know that like it's sometimes better in this case to line up so that you're hidden, and then as soon as the point starts, you actually challenge your guy heads up and you shoot your first 3 to 5 balls here, and then you shoot some kind of gap right here or right here by pulling up. So what you would do is you would shoot, you know, 3, 2, 1, go, shoot heads up, and then pull back, and then shoot one of these 2 zones on the snake side. It's a really, really, really good way, a really fast way to make the home guy feel way less safe, because he's like, dude, there's a guy shooting at me every time, and then somebody else is like, yeah, but there's a guy shooting me when I'm running to the snake. Like, there's not 6 players on the field, and that's all because of you. Same thing for the Dorito side, though it's way less great. This is ridiculous. This is huge. This gap feels impossible to not. That's a guaranteed kill in my view. Like, what the heck? Same thing, really. I mean, you could shoot right here, and then you could pull up and shoot here if you wanted, or you could shoot here. I mean, there's so much visibility here that I would just shoot this guy, and if you see him running, then just put your paint right here. You'd have all the time in the world to do that. But again, I think if you're playing the home, always pressure your mirror. I think that's a safe idea. Here, I mean, I don't even know if it's worth saying what you can shoot, because look, you can shoot everything. So a bit of a crossfield shot right there, which is good to know. So you could, off the break, come here, shooting cross. Like, there's 2 major gaps you've got. Boom, 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 boom. And then get here. Or rather, just shoot that. Or you could even pull up super shallow and shoot here. So also, I should say that anytime in a field where your number 2 shoot cross, you need to plan to only do that for like 5 to 10 seconds. The first 5 to 10 seconds of the point is really when you do that, unless you have a specific thing you are looking to do or keeping someone out of. So in the case of in the case of the World Cup layout, there was often times where what we were doing was reading and reacting to what was happening. And so we stayed on the cross if they didn't get past our zones. Every time we would just stay on the cross, and we would try to funnel them in the middle, and then we would try to win going out wide and then pinching them out that way. It's very hard, but that was the idea. But as soon as they cross that zone, we switch jobs, and then we just know them instantly. Like, okay, I got to play heads up now. Is that field any bigger? Dude, this field is ridiculous. I don't feel like the layout is really done correctly, but Doritos side is the other side. FYI, that snake, they did the wrong way around. Yeah. No, I figured that was the case, because just even though there's beams, it's to the Doritos side. But okay, so there is a wire, not a true wire, that would be out here, but there is a heads up like blind you can shoot back at this dude. Not even a blind, you can just see that guy. Inside shots from this position are not garbage. They're there, but this is a terrible angle to fight people from. This bunker is probably going to be very hard to survive in, to be honest. Getting in here, it's hard to like analyze the layout when everybody can see everybody. And so here would be my philosophy. Like, what is this middle? What is this? What is that? Like, this just seems so weird. So then when you get here, well, you say this tournament is this weekend, so I assume that you're done practicing or maybe didn't get any practice. But obviously you'll have wanted to know where your shots are coming out of your bunkers as the ones, especially before the tournament. That's going to drive a lot of your team's success. This is a weird, super weird layout. I mean, honestly, if you're here, you've got maybe 5 seconds, a few seconds to do anything without feeling like you have to play heads up and run this dude down. So just be aware of that. Playing in this pocket right here is way less safe than playing back here, even though it's not as far up the field. You have a lot of shots here. In fact, you might be even safer if you come here and wrap and shoot this dude, the Aztec, or wrap and shoot everybody in the back line, than you would be if you came up here and tried to do that same job on the inside of the field. Just because you are a lot more protected from a guy coming to run you down, or rather you're able to react much better. If you're like, let's say you're here and you see a guy running around, you can shoot him as he's coming as a reaction than you could if you're looking inside of the field and you get shot in the pack. So I wouldn't go here unless you're either committed to killing somebody because you know they're there, you're committed to just trading out with them, or you know that you've killed one guy on the snake side and you know he hasn't matched you yet. Otherwise I wouldn't probably go here. Dude, this layout is just weird, man. It's super weird. Like, look at this can. Like, what are you doing in this can? Like, okay, I've got everybody here who can see me, and I've got everybody here who can see me. Like, what in the world, dude? This is a fortress back here. What is with their obsession with these wedges? There is no middle. Another question from a newbie. When should you be sliding into a bunker? Every single time or just when you're being shot at? My recommendation is always slide into your bunkers. Start out by sliding into your bunkers. If you create that habit, you will drastically increase your survivability. And from there, when you've worked on the mechanics of sliding into your bunker and that you are quick, then like you are able to quickly slide in and get to your firing position. Like, so for example, oh look, I got some bonus content for you guys today. Wow, look at this. Look at this. Hold on. Look at this. Oh, here it is. I don't know if this is the actual video. I think it's this one. So what you want to try and get to is 3 steps. You want to take it no more than 3 steps from a slide to a stand up and snap shooting ready position. That's what you should be practicing. So if you can get to that point where you're able to, when you take the bite, when you've shot someone in and you take the bite, I mean, I'm taking different angles. This isn't like, there's other videos that I have of, this is the first one I found. There's other videos that I have where I'm going a lot faster, but you want to get in the habit of not using too many feet and not taking a long time getting set up. When you get to that point is when you can decide, should I just run into my bunker? And, like in the back line, for example, if you've killed a player in the heads up battle, whether you're this is mostly concerning the 2. If you're the number 2, you might be able to just run and gun to your bunker because you want to keep pressure, right? You want to not drop your gun as much as you can. And so in the case of the number 2, sure. In the case of the number 1, you almost always want to slide into your bunkers. I don't care if there's people there or not. You just almost always want to do it. It's a really, really good habit. All right. That's that. Okay. Really quick, let's finish this off. I mean, what isn't there? This cake sucks. Don't play that. Try to not be in there. Use it as a leapfrog if you have to. If your survivability is suffering, you can use this for a second, but don't stay here because as soon as they get to this Dorito, you're dead. They'll shoot your feet. They'll shoot your pack. This guy can pressure this Dorito really, really strong, and they can pressure each other. But I would think that that guy's in a lot more trouble than this dude is, because this guy can get low and play the tape. This layout, I'm not gonna lie, this layout sucks. Like this would probably be a fun practice layout, but for a tournament, this layout does not look good. This looks like a very poorly designed layout. Okay, so here's what I have to say. What I would suggest you do is I would just plan to do two-man operations with going to bunkers that are your highest survivability bunkers. So whether that's, you know, doubling up at the home, for example, doubling up at the home and setting a guy here or here, and then one dude floats out of the corner after. The snake side seems to be the safest to just get to off the break. So for example, here and here, or you might even be able to get to the corner and here. You need to, I would plan, or not the snake side, the Dorito side, excuse me. You need to plan to get out of the back center on the Dorito side as much as you can to not clutter it. But this other side is going to be super hard to get out of. Like, that is so wide. I don't know if this, I almost wonder if this bunker is not supposed to be here, if it's supposed to be like right here, because it would make a lot more sense if this Aztec was shifted out right here and almost in line with this cake. That would make more sense to me. But the way that it is, this is like a huge death zone right here. With all this space, this is just so scary. So you're probably going to have to react to bumping out, then taking that off the break. And then what I would say is, okay, over the course of the tournament, hopefully pretty quickly, you figure out this side of the field is what's killing us. So then just then determine, because anybody can see, like literally everybody can see everybody, have two guns on that one player that you want to kill. So whether that's, all right, this guy's going to go here and he's going to shoot cross, and this dude's going to come out here and he's going to shoot heads up, or the home guy is going to shoot at him. Just shift your guns. So instead of, you, like I said, we want to strive for 4 guns off the break, which in this case would be this guy's gun is down, this guy's gun's up. So I'll do up, this guy's gun's down. That doesn't help. I'll do an X for down, circle for up. This guy's guns up, this guy's guns up, this guy's guns up, and this guy's guns up, whichever it is. So that's how you get 4 guns up, and then you just determine, all right, this guy should either be shooting cross, this guy should shoot cross as a response to that, this home guy can shoot whoever he wants, and then this guy can shoot whoever he wants, but he's probably pressuring the home guy. Usually your dude running out to the corner who's running and gunning is shooting back at the home, almost always. Just almost always. It's so much easier to shoot the home guy than it is to shoot somebody across the field from you or whatever. So then just figure out, okay, the dude on the Dorito is the problem, so we need to bingo him. So this guy's going to shoot. We're going to send this guy out to the corner. This guy's going to... Oh, you get the idea. This guy's shooting here, and then the home guy's going to shoot that dude. So that means we need... How many guns do we have on the snake side right now? We have 0. So that means this dude needs to shoot here. And if you determine, oh, this guy actually can't see the snake side from this position, then that's your answer. Oh, we can't do that. We have to have somebody else shoot that way. So that might mean that, okay, well, that means that if we want to shoot 2 guns the Dorito way, we have to send a guy here and a guy here. So then this guy shoots here, this guy shoots here. And then we're good. Then the home guy shoots this way or whatever. It'd have to be that way. And this guy runs and guns out to the corner and shoots the home. Why does it not keep changing? Does that make sense? Chase, it's so wide. I need to get it. That's what I should do. I should get an emoji that's so wide. It's so wide emoji. By the way, check the channel if the supporter stuff is up. If you become a supporter, you get access to some pretty funny emotes. Yes, finished up now. Just thought it would be funny to hear your thoughts on it. Okay, cool. There is no middle. It's so wide. You should see the field as well. We are in flood season at the moment in Australia, so been nonstop rain for the past month. Also, AMS and Semi played on the field for the last 2 weeks, so the field is mudfest. Oh, that sucks. I can send you a photo if you'd like on how muddy it is. You should join the Discord server and post that in paintball clips. I'd love to see it. The examples, thanks for answering my question. Oh, perfect, thanks. Yo, Pastel, what's up? You're joining just as we're about to finish. Whoa, interesting layout. That's putting it lightly. Is there ever a situation where doing the thing that makes the least amount of sense could be effective? Example, this Aussie layout, and actually risk up the middle? Just as an unpredictable... Oh, totally. Okay. So, I mean, even even not even considering this layout, if we just forget this layout, here's how you should view paintball, in my opinion. This is the doctrine according to me. Just like with any professional sport, there is a metagame. Okay, the metagame is what is the most correct way, the best way to play that game. Okay, if you guys are familiar with video games, esports, you're very familiar with this concept, because the metagame in esports changes often because of patches, stuff like that. Changes to the game. It doesn't really change as much with traditional sports, though the metagame of traditional sports has changed over time based on the specific traits and attributes of the athletes, and just the overall like skill improvement over time of those athletes. So in the case of paintball, the metagame was that pushing the outside of the field, gaining control of the outside of the wide field, and then pushing that was the best way to win, because a lot of fields like the PSP layouts were really wide. And this is I'm not talking about like 7-mans. In the case of like 5-man X-ball, PSP fields were really wide. So getting control of the corners was the most important thing to do, but it was also the hardest thing to do. Over time, the middle then was a response to that. So what you would do is you'd punch a guy at the center and you would start shooting the people running to the corner. And that was the counter to that meta. Well, then the meta changed, especially when you think about in 2016 or maybe it was 2014 when they released the big W bunkers. If you guys remember those, that just had like the little dips. They were massive in the center, also very dangerous. So those bunkers changed the meta, because then you started to send somebody, instead of the home guy staying at the back center shooting off the break, he would almost always punch up to that center W and then just trade out with the guy. He would hold a gap until somebody ran through it, or he'd trade out with the center. And so then there was then that was the meta, and then they got rid of that, and then the meta has shifted again, so that the meta now is a lot of read and reacting to what your opponents are doing and responding very quickly and effectively to the ground that your opponents are taking. So that's all to say that if you know what the meta of paintball is, and its flavor changes per layout just slightly, still basic principles apply. You should always try to control the outside of the field. You should use the middle as a response to that, as a way to counter that, but also understanding that if you don't kill somebody and they get the wide game on you, you lose. What are some other things you can throw in there that are, this is how paintball is supposed to be played? For example, the number 2s are supposed to protect their number 1s. And so how can I abuse that? Well, when you start to think about that, then that again frees up a lot of play as up the center, or as a secondary move to whatever's going on right in front of people's eyes. So in the case of layouts like this or any other layouts, doing the least expected thing is sometimes the best play you can make. You can only really get away with it once in a series, though, is the problem. So for example, if you were to take a huge bite, let's just say, everybody knows this is the massive gap that you just can't survive in. Like, you just can't survive going out to the corner, even no matter how often you try. It might be that instead then what you do is you run up here and you shoot this way, and then as soon as you get to here, you dive into this bunker, or you dive into here, and you can get away with that once or twice, depending on when you do it in the series, depending on how quickly you show that play in the tournament, whatever the case is. And the reason why I think this layout is bad is because those types of unpredictable plays become easily, you can react to them very easily. So for example, even if I didn't have a lane shooting right here to stop this entire zone, I could very easily react to it by just seeing, because I have so much visibility of this, I can just react and shoot paint there and kill this guy, even as a delayed response to what he's doing. So that's the reason why I think the layout's bad. But anyway, in the case where the gaps are a lot tighter and you have to be shooting your paint there first before, if you just react to it, you'll miss them. That's kind of where you can start to abuse the meta, where you're like, okay, everybody knows that this is the bunker that people go to off the break. These are the bunkers, right? I'm just making them up, but these are the bunkers that everybody goes to all the time because it's safe. What can we do to subvert that? What can we do to surprise that? What are the weaknesses of going to those bunkers? Though they're safe, what can they not see? And I would argue that it's probably this move. It's probably this move and then some kind of crazy up the center push where you're just shooting a bunch of people on one side of the field or whatever, right? And then people will adjust, they'll freak out, and then you got to go from there. So Discord link, yeah, it's actually in my YouTube, all my YouTube videos, but yeah, I'll link the Discord in 1 second. Server info. Copy link. Hopefully that answers that. Any other questions? Any final questions before we end? We are at 10:01, so we are done for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the stream. Oh, excuse me, I gotta blow my nose. Okay. Well, I appreciate everybody who has tuned in and has hung out. Thank you guys again. I'm sure everybody's here because they are subscribers to the channel. So I don't necessarily need to plug that. But every Thursdays, probably the time is still up for debate. We did 8 o'clock today because that was the time that ended up working out, but I'm trying to get to a better schedule. On Twitch, when I was streaming there, I was streaming twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8 to 10, but just life changed, things happened. I can't really adhere to that schedule anymore. So I'll probably start off with once a week and see how that goes. I would rather do a live stream once a week where I've got enough to talk about for 2 hours that people enjoy it and it's engaging than I would to stream like 2 times a week and just not a whole lot. So thanks. Your videos are very helpful. Hey, Ernesto, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad they're helpful. I hope that they're helpful. I don't know what the next video is going to be yet, but I'm aiming for the end of next week. So, but my wife is the only one looking out for my mental well-being. So if the video doesn't get released by next Friday, then the Friday after that is when that video will come out. So otherwise, be on the lookout for the live stream if I miss that time frame. Hopefully you see you soon in person. Thanks. Yeah, Jordan, I hope so too. I'm not sure what the plan is this year for events. What I'd like to do is I'd like to go out to events and just film, you know. I'm not saying I would film points necessarily, but I would like to go out and, you know, do interviews or just do coverage, like even live stream at the event for people who aren't there to give kind of like a behind the scenes sort of thing. I'm not sure yet, but or I wouldn't mind going out and coaching a team. I can't do that on my own bill right now. It's not practical. My wife and I we have a lot of personal expenses that are coming our way. So if a team wants to pay to fly me out to coach them, I'll absolutely do it. So I'll post some photos in your Discord. Mate, when channel did you want me to post them in? The paintball clips. I mean, if you post them in paintball chat, it's not a big deal, but paintball clips is a great place to do it. Also, anybody who's joined, I'm just going to do it right now. I'm so tired of you guys not choosing a role. If you join the Discord server, you need to choose a role, otherwise the server will be very small to you. So I will give you the baller role. I assume that's you in the Discord, but you will also not see the gaming portion of the Discord if you don't go into roles and choose a role. So just be aware. Thanks for all the help, man. Just moved to Arizona, D3 player. Your vids helped a ton while I'm looking for a good camp to get in. Hey, Nick, dude, Phoenix Rising. Phoenix Rising are my homies. They're coached by Corey Field too. No better coach on the West Coast, even though I'm on the West Coast. So I love Corey Field. He and I are. Corey Field's one of my great friends. I love that guy. So yeah, try to get onto Phoenix Rising. I think they have quite a few players in their D3 roster, but they might actually be fielding 2 D3 rosters now. I'm not sure. So they're a great camp. Win most WCPPLs. Like they're just a super good camp. So I'm glad they helped. Okay, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna end the stream. I will be on Discord. If you guys have questions, comments, concerns, you want to share photos, ask whatever you want, join the Discord. That is the best way to stay active and continue the conversation. But otherwise, I will see you guys next time. Have a good one.